It was a quiet, ordinary evening when Sophie first heard the whispers. She had just moved into the old Victorian house on the edge of town, a place that had been on the market for years. People avoided it, claiming it was too much work or too far gone. Sophie didn't mind. She loved a challenge, and besides, the price was too good to pass up. The house had character, with its creaking wooden floors, old-fashioned wallpaper, and tall, narrow windows that let in just enough light to make the rooms feel alive. But as she walked through the dusty hallways on that first night, something about it unsettled her. It wasn't the house's age or the strange way the air felt heavy, but something else, something she couldn't place. That's when it started. A soft murmur, barely audible, but there, coming from the walls. At first, Sophie thought it was just her imagination playing tricks. The house was old, after all. Houses like that had their noises. But as she lay in bed that night, drifting off to sleep, she heard it again. A soft whisper, faint, like a voice speaking just beyond the threshold of hearing. "Help me, please." Sophie shot up, her heart pounding. She listened intently, but the house was silent again. She shook her head, convincing herself it was just the wind, the house settling. Still, her pulse quickened, and she pulled the covers tighter around her. She tried to ignore it, but the words, "Help me," kept echoing in her mind. The next morning, she tried to shake the strange feeling from her head. She unpacked a few boxes and began to make the house feel more like home, trying to distract herself from the odd occurrences. But the whispers continued, each night growing louder, more distinct, more desperate. "Help me. I'm trapped." It was always the same. Sophie couldn't sleep, couldn't ignore the voices any longer. They weren't just whispers now. They were like the sound of someone, something, scraping against the walls. It was as if someone was trapped inside, trying to claw their way out. Desperately, Sophie sought answers. She went to the local library, digging into the history of the house. What she found only made her feel more unsettled. The house had once belonged to a family named the Greys. They were well known in town, wealthy and respected, but something tragic had happened many years ago. The youngest daughter, Eleanor Grey, had disappeared one night without a trace. No one knew where she had gone. Some said she had run away. Others whispered that she had been kidnapped. But the rumors didn't stop there. They said Eleanor had been locked away in the house's walls, a prisoner in the dark. The more Sophie read, the more she realized the whispers were connected to the house's tragic past. She returned home that evening, a gnawing feeling in her stomach. The whispers were waiting for her, now louder, more urgent. "Help me." She followed the sound, heart racing as it led her to the back of the house, to a small hidden door behind the pantry. She had never noticed it before, but now it seemed impossible to ignore. Her hand shook as she turned the knob, the door creaking open with a sound that seemed to echo through the house. Behind the door, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. Sophie hesitated, but the whispers called to her, pulling her forward. With each step down, the air grew colder, the smell of damp earth and decay stronger. At the bottom of the stairs, Sophie found a small windowless room. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper, and in the corner, a wooden crate sat, half buried under years of dust. She approached it cautiously, her breath shallow, and when she lifted the lid, a wave of rancid air hit her. Inside was a bundle of old, tattered clothes, and beneath them, a journal. Sophie's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. The journal belonged to Eleanor Grey. The entries began innocently enough, but as she read further, the tone shifted. Eleanor's writing became more frantic. Her words rushed and disjointed. She spoke of a dark presence in the house, of voices whispering to her in the walls, telling her she wasn't safe. But the final entry, written in a scrawl that almost seemed to be written in desperation, sent a chill down Sophie's spine. Don't let them find me. They are still here. I'm trapped. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, so loud now they felt like they were all around her. She looked up, her heart in her throat, and saw the shadows move on the walls. Her skin prickled as if she wasn't alone. She backed away from the crate, her eyes scanning the room. The shadows seemed to grow, shifting, twisting. And then, as if the house itself were alive, the floor beneath her feet trembled. The whispers rose to a crescendo, becoming screams. "Help me, please, they won't stop. They won't let me go." In a panic, Sophie ran back up the stairs, but something in the dark below grabbed her ankle, yanking her down. She screamed, the sound echoing through the house. Her hand shot out, clutching the stair railing, trying to pull herself free, but there was no escape. The whispers were all around her now, cold, clammy fingers brushing her skin, pulling her toward the depths of the house. Please, please help me." With a final desperate scream, Sophie tore herself free, stumbling back into the kitchen. The house fell silent. The whispers were gone. Sophie didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Her mind raced, piecing together what she had discovered. Eleanor wasn't just trapped in the house. She had become a part of it. Her soul had been bound to the walls, her cries echoing through time, seeking someone, anyone, to hear her. Sophie knew she had to leave, but as she grabbed her things, she noticed something chilling. A message written in the dust on the kitchen table. "You are not alone." And as she turned to leave, Sophie realized the whispers had already found her.